wandering around looking for some place to sit because every table was full. So yes, I have noticed that on these mega ships, but have I never been in that situation on smaller ships?
Actually, I have.
It is Sunday, January 1st, 2023. And on this week's edition of Sunday Sofa Time, we're talking about cruising with a mega ship. I hope you made it into 2023 without any major incidents here in Hamburg, Germany. There are already people lighting off bottle rockets, exploding fireworks and things like that. It's actually the 31st right now while I'm recording this, so it's not New Year's yet for me, but it will be soon. And in Germany, as I think in many European countries, it's a tradition at midnight that everybody goes out and sets off fireworks, and now a lot of people are doing it now. They go out with their kids earlier in the evening, because if the kids don't make it to midnight, they're disappointed the next day that they didn't get to do the fireworks. Do they do that where you're from? Let me know in the comments below. I'm Morgan from the very unofficial travel guides. I travel all around the world to popular and not so popular tourist destinations to give you a very honest, unofficial look at what it's like to be there. I also wrote a book filled with crazy and not so crazy travel stories called Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. It's available on Amazon now, including paperback. And in September of 2022, I got to cruise with the Wonder of the Seas, which at the time and now is still the largest cruise ship in the world. 3 years ago, well, about 3 years ago, I also cruised with the Harmony of the Seas, which at that time was the largest cruise ship in the world. And I've also been on the Queen Mary 2, which is on the list of largest cruise ships in the world. However, the Cunard fan community reminds me all the time that the Queen Mary 2 is not a cruise ship. So let's just take it off the list, right? And when I post videos about these mega ships, a lot of comments are from people saying they could never imagine being on vacation with that many people in one place. They say, you know, they would rather do anything else. And so I thought I would go through some of the main aspects of what it's like to cruise on one of these mega ships with 7,000, 6,000 other people to let you know what my experience has been like, because it might be different from what you expect. We're going to talk about the embarkation and debarkation process, which is just a fancy word for getting on the ship and getting off the ship at the end, the dining experiences, the shows, the casino and other activities, the pools, the layout, and just the overall impression. So that's what you're in for on this week's Sunday Sofa Time. Every cruise has to start with getting onto the ship. That is called embarkation in cruise lingo. And of course, when 6,000 people are all showing up to do one thing at the same time, it can get crowded. But especially now, since the whole Corona mess happened, cruise lines have been very strict about assigning sort of boarding times for the first day of the cruise. And if everybody sticks to these times, my experience has been it hasn't really been bad at all. Of course, if all 6,000 people showed up at 12 noon, that's gonna be a problem. But that has not been the experience that I have had cruising with these mega ships. I remember on the Harmony of the Seas, in fact, I got there so late because my Uber got stuck in traffic and there was a huge accident. It was horrible, like with cars flipped over. It looked like they were filming a scene from The Matrix. And when I finally arrived at the port, there was like nobody there, and I just sashayed right onto the ship. When we boarded the Wonder just a few months ago, it was a little bit different. I think probably there might have been some people who were not showing up at the proper time. And there was quite a line coming out of the cruise terminal in Barcelona where we boarded, but it moved quickly. And to tell you the truth, it didn't seem to me like it took any longer than it's taken to board other ships. The same goes for embarkation. The cruise line structures it to try to make sure that not everybody is doing the same thing at the same time. So if everybody sticks to their time window, then it's spread out over the morning, and there can always be slight traffic jams. But I can only say again, I haven't noticed it being a bigger problem on these mega ships in comparison to other, I don't know, what do you want to call them, average size ships? One thing I have noticed that has been kind of a problem is the on-land facilities or the infrastructure of how many taxis are there, how many buses are there, and things like that. That, of course, has nothing to do with the cruise line. And if it's the last day of the cruise and everybody wants to take a taxi to the airport, I mean, how many taxis can there possibly be in a city? You know what I mean? That is a problem, but there's always other options, and so my recommendation is don't take a taxi. Moving on to the dining experiences on board. Of course, on a ship as big as the Wonder of the Seas, there's a lot of people who want to eat. I mean, going on cruises, the food is one of the big highlights, as it is at any all-inclusive resort, and cruise ships are basically floating all-inclusive resorts. If you've never been on a cruise, let me know in the comments below how you ended up watching this video. It just interests me. Are you planning a cruise, or did this pop up in your feed and something about the thumbnail was interesting to you? But yeah, cruises are basically floating all-inclusive resorts, and the food is something that is a highlight for many people because they get a chance to try different things, and it's just nice to go out to eat. It's like going out to eat for every meal with no worrying about deciding who's gonna cook, what's gonna be cooked, who's gonna clean up, all those things. It's just nice to leave that stress behind you for a week. And when I started cruising, it was still sort of like the olden days, I'm gonna say, of the cruise industry, where Royal Caribbean ships, for example, had the main dining room, had the Windjammer buffet, had maybe 2 specialty restaurants, and those were your options. Nowadays, it is way different. So the Wonder of the Seas has so many different restaurants. There's still the main dining room, there's still the Windjammer, I guess they call it the Windjammer Marketplace now. And then there's the steak restaurant, there's an Italian restaurant, there's a hot dog stand, there's Johnny Rockets, there's a sports bar, there's all these other places that you can go to eat. Most of them on Royal Caribbean will cost you extra, and you don't have to go to those, but they are there. And from my experience, Royal Caribbean has adjusted the size and the offerings of these so typical dining locations like the buffet and the main dining room to accommodate a larger amount of people. However, that doesn't mean that there haven't been problems or that I haven't experienced problems, and the Wonder of the Seas are just our most recent cruise was one of those times. I noticed that especially for breakfast on port days that the Windjammer got very crowded. And even though it is gigantic, they have seating like on 2 sides of this huge ship and across the bridge at the back. But very often Marcus and I found ourselves wandering around looking for some place to sit because every table was full. So yes, I have noticed that on these mega ships, but have I never been in that situation on smaller ships?
Actually, I have.
So I don't know. Does it happen more on the mega ships than it does on the smaller ships? The smaller ships have less passengers, but the space that is reserved for the buffet is also smaller. So it's not really, I'm gonna say it's not really a problem. It's not like 7,000 people or 6,000 people. I'm just gonna keep making up random numbers here, are all going to do it all at one time. And it's not like they're all going to the same restaurant at one time. Like I said, there are so many different places to go eat on these ships. If you're picturing that like at 7:30, all 6,592 people go to the same restaurant at one time, then you're probably one of those people who've never been on a cruise before. Now we're gonna talk about one of my favorite things to do on board cruise ships, and that is go see the shows. I mean, I guess it depends on what cruise line, but especially on Royal Caribbean, I love the shows. You all know Marcus and I are also showbiz people. We have worked many, many years in the live entertainment industry, and yes, on the Harmony, and yes, on the Wonder, there were times where we noticed if you didn't get to one of the performance venues early, then it was difficult to get a seat. There is the opportunity to reserve in the app, and some of the shows require you to reserve if you want to get a seat for sure. And then I think at like 5 minutes before showtime, they just let everybody else in. It's not the funnest to be one of those people to get there at the last minute and not have a reservation, but I think allowing people to reserve is a great way to also sort of stagger how many people are going to be watching what show on what night. One problem that I have experienced on these ships is the ice skating shows. For years now, every Royal Caribbean cruise ship has an ice skating show and venue, and that venue is quite small for the amount of people on the ship and for the amount of people who want to go see these shows. And just about every time I've gone to see a show in that space, it's very obviously gotten very full very quickly, and you always see people walking up and down the aisles looking if there's another place to sit, and people arguing about reserving for people who then don't show up. Yeah, the ice skating rink and the shows that happen there, if you want to be sure to get a good seat, you have to get there very early. The music theater or the main theater on board is very big, and I never once noticed people having a problem getting a seat for a show in that venue. And then the aqua theater at the back of the ship, at the back of the boardwalk, which is, I've talked about it so many times, the intense show that we saw on the Wonder of the Seas is one of, if not my favorite cruise ship show ever. But this venue is also kind of small, and also someplace you need to get to really early to make sure you get a good seat or a seat at all. Or you can book one of the balconies at the back of the boardwalk, and then you'll have a view from your balcony. So that's a good way to not have to wait in line. And in fact, I wonder if there's a way that you could like Airbnb your balcony on a cruise ship. I just thought of that right now. Isn't that a great idea? To like, if you have a great view of the aqua theater on the ship, if there was like some secret app that you could rent out your balcony to people and make a little bit of extra money, let's invent it. Do I have any app developers out there? So depending on the venue, it can seem crowded when you go to see the shows on these mega ships, but I can't say I haven't experienced that on other smaller cruise ships too. Once again, it's not like there is only one show on the entire cruise and everybody is trying to go to that show. The same time that the aqua show is happening, there's also a show happening in the main theater, and there's also a band playing in the Irish pub, and there's also dancing happening in the Royal Promenade. There's always so many things going on that it's never just everybody going to do the same thing at once. That's kind of becoming the theme of this video, right? There is one place that we noticed on the Wonder of the Seas was always crowded, and I'm gonna tell you what it is right after this commercial break. Did you get one? What was it about? Write it in the comments below. As I mentioned, there are many different restaurants. When there are shows, they're offered several different times during the cruise, and there are other things happening at the same time. One thing on the ship that there is only one of, something I feel like this would have been better if it was bigger, is the casino. Marcus and I always spend time in the casino when we're cruising. We enjoy sitting there, usually at the end of the night, just putting maybe $10 or $20 in the machines, seeing if we can make anything special happen. And last year was a pretty lucky year for us. But the casino on the Wonder of the Seas, for the size of the ship and for the number of people on board, is just a little bit too small, I think. It was always very crowded in the casino. If you like to play slots too, I think you probably do what we do. You do like a whole round through the casino to see where are the slots that you like to play, you know, either because of the fun things that they do, or because of the price, or because you've been lucky on them in the past. So there were many nights where we spent several minutes, or we made several rounds walking through the casino until we found one of the machines that we like to play that was open, that nobody was sitting at. So that is one thing that I can definitely say on these mega ships. Well, on the Wonder, let's say, the casino is a little bit too small. Another really big ship is the NCL Epic, and the Epic has an enormous casino. So, you know, I can't say that every mega ship has a smallish casino, but the Wonder definitely does. Okay, how about the activities? These mega ships are famous for having so much to do, and I'm talking about surf simulators, zip lines, dry slides, wet slides, pools. All these things are on board and there for your enjoyal. Enjoyal? What's the word I'm trying to think of? Enjoyment. Ich muss anfangen, mehr Englisch zu üben. Ich vergesse Wörter immer wieder. Let me just start by saying, I don't think I have witnessed a larger amount of water areas, pool areas, sun chair areas on any other ship than I have on the Wonder of the Seas. There's the whole solarium area up at the front of the ship that's technically for adults only if anybody feels like enforcing it. Then you have the water park with the water slides. Then you have a splash area. Across from the splash area is a gigantic pool. And if you walk a little bit further back on the ship, you will find two more pools that are the same size. Most cruise ships just have one of these, and the Wonder of the Seas has 3 of them. Of course, if everybody decided they wanted to go do the water slides at the same time, it's gonna be crowded. That happens on other ships too. I mean, what cruise ship have you been on where it hasn't sometimes been a problem to get a sun chair? That's like a famous thing. You know, we talk about people reserving their sun chairs at 6 in the morning and then going back to bed and not going to the pool until like after lunch. That happens on every cruise ship. 2 things I always saw a line for were the water slides and the surf simulator, the Flow Rider. Those are 2 really popular activities, and on a ship where, especially if you're going to be cruising like at a time when a lot of families are going to be cruising, I think those 2 things are going to probably be slam crowded all the time. Is that because it's a mega ship, or is it just because these are fun things that people want to do? And of course, if on your cruise on a mega ship or any other ship, if it's really crappy weather for like 5 days in a row and then all of a sudden it's sunny, then of course, everything that the sun is shining on is gonna be full. That's not a mega ship problem. That's an every ship problem. And one interesting thing to discuss is just the general layout of the ship. What's it like to navigate a day on board one of these gigantic ships? I think this is a valid point to discuss because it is different than a ship like the Norwegian Jade or the Empress of the Seas, for example. On smaller ships, it's very easy to very quickly know sort of the lay of the land and know where everything is and feel like you're at home. You know what I mean? And on these mega ships, that's definitely different. There are venues, bars, restaurants, nooks and crannies all over the place, hidden special things that you might be able to see them, but you won't be able to visit and enjoy every single one of them. I just can't imagine that that's possible unless you're one of these people who have like a very strict schedule that you make in advance and you say, okay, on day 1, we're eating at this restaurant for breakfast, and then we're eating at this restaurant for lunch, and then we're going on the water slides in the afternoon, and we're eating at this restaurant for dinner, and we're going to that bar for a drink. And you plan everything in advance, you might be able to do it all. So yes, one sort of negative factor of cruising on these mega ships is if you're on a short cruise, like a 3-night or a 4-night cruise, you are definitely going to be leaving the ship feeling like you missed something, because I feel like that after a week on one of these ships. And I think that could be something that might lead to a little bit more stress on these ships, but that doesn't have to do with the fact that there's so many people there. It just has to do with the fact that there are so many offerings. And of course, it's great that there's so many offerings because there are so many people there.
Makes sense.
So I guess you kind of have figured out my impression of cruising on these mega ships. Overall, it's really not that different than cruising on any cruise ship. And if you like cruising and if you like this fun kind of ship, then cruising on the Harmony, the Allure, whatever, you're gonna be fine. And the people who write comments like, I'd rather be caught dead than go on vacation with 7,000 people at the same time, I think You know, do you know what the capacity of these all-inclusive resorts are that you stay at? On any given day, there's like 20,000 people inside Disney World. That's way different. Of course, if you're more into like camping in national parks or something like that, then yeah, a cruise on the Wonder of the Seas might not be your thing. That is true. And that being said, now will come the time on Sunday Sofa Time where I comment on your comments live on air. In last week's Sunday Sofa Time, we talked about the inside-facing balcony cabins on the Oasis class of ships from Royal Caribbean. These are balconies that don't look to the ocean. They look to parts of the ship that are on the inside part. There's no roof over the top, but there's just no ocean view. These comments are on that video, and before I get into that, let me just remind you again about my book, Getting Stitches on a Cruise Ship. I really did get stitches on a cruise ship, and in fact, it was the Harmony of the Seas, so it's very appropriate for this video. Remember, it's not only a way to get a quick, fun read, but it is also a way to support what I do here on the Very Unofficial Travel Guides. Now on to the comments. First one is from Go With GID, Go With Gid. They write, another problem cabin is on the NCL Prima in its haven. The family suite has 2 cabins, one on each side, with a large slide that comes right by the balcony and a partial balcony facing you from the left. There is no privacy at all, plus the potential screaming riders. They are 15900, 15902, so the cabin numbers. The last 3 numbers on decks 13 and 14. It's a design flaw of the highest magnitude. People are being asked to pay upwards of $13,000 to bring the family on a cruise, and this is what NCL thinks should be their exclusive experience. That's crazy. I'm gonna try to find some pictures and show you guys. On one hand, it might be kind of cool to have like the slide right next to your balcony and sort of have this view that nobody else has of the people like whizzing by. But yeah, on the other hand, is that the view you want? Especially the Haven is NCL's sort of suite class where it's a ship within a ship. You get a lot of extra perks included with a cabin in the Haven, but yeah, do you want a view of the slide? Next comment is from Chris PNW. They write, LOL, there is no privacy anymore anywhere. Full stop. I'm already gonna disagree with you there, but let me continue. If a person wants to bathe in the nude or nude lewd on their balcony, expect to be recorded. Security cameras are everywhere, and I would not be surprised if the ship security crew have a video of favorite bits floating around, as disturbing as that may be. If you have ever been gifted by a cruise couple who thought it was smart to consummate their cruise on a balcony, you would want all balcony activity banned. Yeah, I think part of this is maybe partially true. There are security cameras on cruise ships that face the balconies. They are not there to spy on the balconies, and they do not have a view of the entire balcony space of every balcony. They're there for the case that they catch somebody throwing something overboard, which might actually be a person, that happens, or that a person jumps overboard. I've made so many videos about this. I think probably in 99% of the cases where there's a person overboard, this person did not fall. They jumped, they were thrown, or they were already doing something really stupid and then they fell into the ocean. And the security cameras are there in case that happens, so they can review the footage to see what area this came from and help identify maybe the other people that are cruising in that cabin, or what else happened. There is not a security camera that is like looking into every single balcony. I'm sorry, it's just not like that. Yes, there are balconies where they can see a little bit more because of the position, but there are also balconies where if you're sort of on the back end of your balcony, 100%, I guarantee you there is no camera on you. Final comment on this first video of 2023 is from WCH. They write, just got off the Oasis and for the first time I had a Central Park balcony. You really have no privacy, especially the lower you are. That is something I do agree with, and I talked about it in last week's Sofa Time. And you hear every beat of music they play on the pool deck. So like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and it almost sounded amplified for some reason, but the slide doors do a good job of blocking out the sound. And people who wrote about these cabins said that the doors do a good job of blocking out the sound, and many also said you can hear the music. Some were saying they enjoyed having that music during the day, but of course that's not for everybody, and it's definitely not for me. I don't mind listening to music, but I like to choose when I listen to it and when I don't, and I also prefer to listen to music that I like to listen to. You know what I mean? Somebody else wrote, however, that if you have a Central Park view, that at night it's really nice because they have like cricket sounds piped into the Central Park, and it adds kind of a nice atmosphere. And I guess I could understand that as well. If you have stuck around to the end here, thank you so much. The secret word is orange because there's an orange right here. Oh, I caught it. Fit the word orange into your comment as a secret sign to me that you watched the video till the very end, and I will be back here next week with another fun travel related video in front of the red sofa. Bye-bye.